Imagine being entirely helpless, trapped in a structure of thin twigs while water and wind violently tear at the edges. This is the baseline reality for two newborn chicks, Chinku and Pinku, shivering in the dark as a torrential storm batters their nest. Their mother, Chicky, faces an impossible mathematical equation. If she stays to keep them warm, they starve to death. If she leaves to hunt, she abandons them to a hostile environment where hypothermia or a single misstep means she never returns. She chooses to fly into the storm. Left behind, the chicks experience the sheer terror of their very first storm. To a newborn mind, the world is incomprehensible. Pinku huddles in the corner, wondering if the sky is crying, while Chinku cowers from the lightning, convinced the flashes will burn their tiny home to ash. This maps the foundation of the hierarchy of survival. At the base is the environmental threat, the indifferent lethality of weather and starvation. To bypass this layer, Chicky's strategy is raw attrition, brute forcing her way through freezing winds to secure wheat. Surviving the jungle's baseline threat requires a mother to absorb the lethal elements herself. She weaponizes her own physical suffering to act as a shield against nature's absolute apathy. The weather is only the passive threat. In the wider jungle ecosystem, the chaos of a heavy storm provides perfect cover for active hunters. Predators exploit the noise and darkness to mask their movements. Taking shelter on a branch, Chicky runs into Tony the parrot, who shares a grim warning. He watched a snake use the cover of a similar storm to slither into a pigeon's unguarded nest, swallowing two chicks whole while the mother was away. The margin for error is zero. Panicked by the warning, Chicky attempts a desperate sprint home. However, the darkness conceals a fresh danger. Two massive predatory birds drop from the canopy, blocking her path and eyeing her as an easy meal. Now we move up the pyramid to the second tier, physical and predatory threats. At this level, Chicky's previous strategy of raw endurance is useless. Against two larger, aggressive hunters, a small bird is entirely outmatched in physical combat. When an opponent is larger and faster, muscle and bravery aren't enough. To keep her offspring alive, a mother's instinct must instantly pivot from physical survival to psychological warfare. Chicky assesses the two hunters blocking her path. The physics are undeniable. She cannot outfly them. A direct confrontation would end in seconds. This flowchart models her move: divide and conquer. By injecting a psychological catalyst, ego, she turns their combined strength into a vulnerability. Flattering their lethal reputations, she goads them to prove which hunter is actually the strongest. The trap springs perfectly. The hunter's pride overrules their hunger. They turn on each other, tearing feathers and trading blows in midair until they both plummet to the ground unconscious, allowing Chicky to slip away completely undetected. She finally reaches her nest, regurgitating the hard-won wheat to feed her starving children. As the rain tapers off and the morning sun begins to rise, there is a profound, if temporary, illusion of safety. In the brutal mathematics of the wild, intellect acts as the ultimate equalizer. By manipulating the predator's vanity, Chicky proves that calculated strategy neutralizes overwhelming physical force. The relief of the morning sun is incredibly brief. The nest is far too quiet. Chicky discovers Chinku and Pinku huddled in the corner, severely lethargic and burning with an aggressive, unexplained viral fever. This pushes the family into the highest, most insidious tier of our survival pyramid: existential and biological threats. The physical endurance used against the storm and the clever manipulation used against the hunters are entirely useless against a microscopic virus. Desperate, Chicky flies across the jungle to consult Dr. Chintu, an experienced field mouse. This introduces logic and science to the crisis, but the doctor quickly establishes the hard limits of medical intervention. The chicks' tiny bodies are too exhausted. Without any baseline physical strength left, medicine cannot force a cure. Their survival now relies entirely on biological chance. An invisible disease strips a mother of all her tangible defenses. It backs her into a corner where her bravery and intelligence are rendered completely impotent, forcing her to watch a battle she cannot physically fight. Pushed beyond the limits of reason, Chicky takes off, flying toward the highest tree in the forest. This is the Silent Peak, a towering branch that sits high above the normal food chain and the brutal rules of the jungle floor. Here, she executes her final, radical survival strategy. Bypassing logic altogether, she directly confronts the universe. She doesn't beg, she demands justice, screaming into the void that if her children are taken after all she fought through, the grief of a mother will echo across generations and disrupt the balance of the forest itself. When she returns to the nest, the silence is broken by a small voice asking for water. The fever has finally broken. Against the grim odds established by the doctor, the chicks' bodies have held on, bringing an end to the family's existential trial. By the next morning, the chicks are on their feet, standing at the edge of the nest. Surviving the storm, the hunters, and the virus has completely eradicated their initial terror. Their fear of the rain is gone, replaced entirely by an intense desire to learn how to fly. The true anatomy of maternal resilience is the systematic dismantling of environmental, physical, and existential threats. This process secures the next generation's survival and transforms frail offspring into fearless entities ready to conquer the sky.